Hello, boys and girls. It's your friendly neighborhood Wiggy again, and I have a special contest winner with me. Now, this person is someone that everybody knows due to his very popular Minecraft videos, his wonderfully entertaining Modern Warfare 3 commentaries, and a basic all-around good guy. I'd like to introduce Capp00. Cap, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Wiggy. Always a pleasure to be here. And hello, everybody out there in Wiggy land.
That's right. This is the everyday gamer, boys and girls, and he's being gracious enough to join me this evening for one of my shenanigan-filled commentaries.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Glad to be here.
You were nice enough to comment on my last Q&A video, so I want to thank you for doing that. And
hmm
we'll ask the question again. I ask everybody if they wanted to submit a question, and your question was, let's pull it up here. What was the game that got me into gaming? Very good question. And the answer to that would be Defender. Now, a lot of people may not know what Defender is, or if you want to talk about old man syndrome, they may not be old enough to know what Defender is. But
It's
it
probably
was
been a
a,
remake by now.
oh yeah, I'm sure there's several different versions out there. Actually, probably a remake would be something like Galaga, except it's not, left to right, it's just up to down.
The HD version.
Yeah, absolutely. Which Galaga was one of my favorite games too.
Oh
That was
yeah,
something I could play that for hours.
that's still a good quarter waster.
Oh yeah, but Defender was probably the game that got me started. My grandparents owned a vending company, so they and my grandfather had a shop full of arcade games because he was a vendor for bowling alleys and clubs and things of that nature. But he had a shop full of them, and when I wasn't playing pool, which is something I specialized in as a kid, I was playing Defender. I loved that game and I could have played it even though I didn't have to pay for it at the time. I probably would have played it until I was broke
Yeah, good
because
times.
yeah, Defender, if you don't know, for the all the boys and girls out there, Defender was a right to left stand-up arcade shooter where you flew a spaceship around and killed aliens that were attacking your city. And as you had to pick up people along the way to save them, which ranked up more points. And that was basically the genesis of that game. But I love Defender, and it spurred on lots of sequels and things of that nature. But I mean, it
hmm
was a great original Atari arcade game.
Oh yeah, definitely a good game. It kind of I don't know if it was one of the first or the first side scroll shooter sort of game, but I mean, there's been even like Battletoads and some games like that on Super Nintendo and stuff had that same side scrolling where you can move up and down, slightly forward and backwards, and you just gotta wait for enemies to come on. I mean, how many games spawned off that idea? That was just
Absolutely. Abs-
genius idea.
yeah. I think one of the other early games I loved to play was Frogger, but
hmm
it was just because I had to get across that log and keep the alligator from eating me.
Yeah.
Don't know what appealed to me about that game, but it was great.
I don't know. Actually, back when I was in high school, I had a group of friends that were way too smart for their own good, and I'd like to consider myself one of those. But do you remember the TI-82 graphing calculators?
I do.
Okay, my friends and I figured out how to put games on one of those, and we had Frogger on our calculator. And my buddy Z-Man and I, we'd be sitting there in our BCIS class or chemistry, whether we'd have our calculator out, and it looked like we were working, but we were playing Frogger or Brickles or Pong or just basically any 8-bit game you could think of. We had on our calculator.
See, that's crazy, that early form of coding back then.
We were
Yeah,
nerds extreme.
absolutely. People talk about how complicated code was. It was a better day whenever you didn't have to worry about lag and graphics cards. You could just play a game for simply that, just to play the game.
MIDI sounds, I still think some of the best video game music written is like Super NES and prior.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
me personally, my first game I ever remember that kind of got me into it was Pitfall on the Atari as well. And, I played other games on the Atari. I had, Qbert and I had Pong and I had Brickles and Tank Wars and all those other games. I played those too, but I don't know what it was about Pitfall, but by God, it annoyed me. I think I was like 4 or 5 when I first started playing. I was trying to get over those stupid rattlesnakes, and if you didn't time it just perfectly, you'd land right on them, and there were no saves.
Yeah.
Oh,
And see, that's what we were discussing with earlier before we started recording. That gamers, especially kids these days, don't understand the term having to save something. There's no save. You have to get all the way through it without dying. And
mm-hmm.
that's probably an aspect of gaming that's missing to this day. But in the economy that we're in, you can't have kids raging out on a game that they can't beat. There has to be an end. There has to be a conclusion to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. And you hoped and prayed back then that a game came with the Konami code so you could bump it from 3 lives to 10.
oh, absolutely.
Oh,
There was no Game Genie back then. Oh, I remember Game Genie.
Game Genie. Yeah, I
That
had
was
that for the NES.
Yep. I had it for the Sega because I had to play Tecmo Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so
I
see
used it for the
now
original
we're
Final
really
Fantasy
getting old
game.
school now, talking about Tecmo Bowl. Wow, that's crazy.
That was, you know what? I had to go to like a Boys and Girls Club. We called it the Maverick, where I grew up, and it was like every Thursday that one of the guys that worked there would bring in his Sega, and we'd have this big Tecmo Bowl thing, and it was like at the time that was the coolest graphics I'd ever seen. It was photorealistic, and the fact that they had like 8-bit photo versions of the players diving in from the side, it was like, oh my god, it's like I'm playing it on TV.
Absolutely. Long before the days of Madden.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
Hey, like, my
yes.
first Madden game was Madden '95.
Oh, wow.
Man, it was my brother. He'd play the Denver Broncos no matter what team I'd play. QB Waggle was a play he'd run every time. Shannon Sharp, 50-yard pass. There was nothing I could do to defend. He beat me like 150 to 12.
That's right.
It was
And
ridiculous.
the most overpowered player, Bo Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
by far.
Bo knows football.
Bo does indeed.
Oh, I miss those commercials.
That's right.
Here we are showing our age again.
Yeah, but you see, and here a few more years, that game will be 20 years old. How's that for old man syndrome?
Oh man, that's just ridiculous. I know when people start saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're 30 years old and you play games." I'm like, I've been playing games for over 25 years. I'm like, oh my God, that's a long time.
That's right. We beat the kids that invent these damn games now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Well, Cap, I want to thank you for joining me, and you're welcome back anytime to doing these because you were a great interview, sir.
I had a great time with it. Sorry it had to end so soon. We'll definitely do this again.
That's all right. We'll talk about the next generation of games. We'll go into the Sega and go into the NES next time. How about that?
That sounds good with me. We got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. We'll go into Mario. Well, we won't talk about it now.
Okay.
All right, boys and girls. Thank you for joining us, Cap. Thank you for joining me, bud.
Thanks, Wiggy. You guys have a good one.